My name is Rocky Papasadora, a Leech Lake band member. I've been on the school board for 16 years. Bug-O-Nay-Ge-Shig school, starting at kindergarten through 12th grade. Children, they're learning their language. They're bringing back their language to where the small children are speaking it starting in kindergarten. At the Nagani program, they learn drum and dance. They hold powwows here several times a year. We've got harvesting of rice here that the kids are involved with. They pick boughs, they go out and pick blueberries. They follow the traditions of their ancestors, and they start at the beginning of the week with their Ojibwe prayers, and they end the week with that. I think that they have a connection here right from their ancestors. I mean, I know for a fact that our ancestors, the blood that ran through their hearts and veins is the same blood running through our hearts and veins today. So that connection is there, and we won't lose it here. We'll continue the practice until they graduate, and hopefully from that point on, they continue it. What we need is a new school. Today we're going to see a first-hand look at the deficiencies, the structural damages that has taken place over the years, the hazards. A tour will be given, which will be explained by our safety officer, John Parmeter. He will show you firsthand inadequacies at the Bug-O-Nay-Ge-Shig High School.
As we walk in the front entrance, there's many problems just with this entrance. If you take a look at this building, our main entrance was a sidewalk which was enclosed, and they put a roof over it. They insulated it. It's not connected, and you can see the holes right here. These blocks right here were put in here to stop the water and the rain and the melting snow from being pushed in when we had heavy rains in the spring.
In 1984, we had K through 12 situated in the elementary and middle school. 1987, because of overcrowding, more students coming to the school, they reconstructed the bus garage, which is now the high school. Over the years, piece by piece, we added on in order to house the senior high students.
And then our door. This heaves up in the cold, and this door eventually cannot be used, so O&M has to take and grind it down. The door right now, 2 people could not exit at one time. When it gets into December, January, February, that's the coldest time of the year. And we are dealing with temperatures when these students have to walk over to the other buildings. We're dealing with temperatures anywhere from 30 above all the way down to 25, 30 below.
Well, in the classrooms and in the building itself, we're in northern Minnesota. We're talking in the midst of winter, 30, 40 below zero. And to be in the classroom, having to wear extra outerwear, gloves, hat, mittens, and on top of that, space heaters throughout the room, trying to learn, trying to stay warm. It's just not conducive to your everyday classroom for learning.
Right above our main entrance to the left, the ice and snow builds up because of the insulation, and it cracks the seams, and O&M has to get up there 2 to 3 times a year to fix that, and their roof continuously has to be fixed because the snow and ice crushes the metal roof. And in some of the rooms, our HVAC system is too old, and we have to use space heaters to heat the room, so by the students get here, they can be up to anywhere from 45 to about 65 degrees, and some of the students are going into the classrooms and they wear their coats. This used to be a sidewalk outside, and it was covered up, and it was partially attached up to the main building. And this over here was the main building. This was a sidewalk. Now, if a person wants, I'm kneeling on a ridge here, and there's another ridge that is over on the side. So it comes right like this. There's a dip right here, then it comes up, there's a ridge, and then there's another dip, and there's another ridge where cement was added. As you look down the sidewalk, you can see the high and low spots, and the floor ripples, and it also slants, and it slants down.
Well, this building, of course, started out as a bus garage. Since then, we've built another one. We moved them out when we needed room for a high school and did our best to convert it, and just isn't doing the job. I mean, it's getting worse year by year.
Yes, here's a good example of the uneven floor, where if the students are walking, they would actually walk uphill to this point. Here is the difference in the floor from one hall to the other hall. And you can take a look at the level there. And then, you see, this is a corner of the building. We have a large seam on the roof. And in the spring, the ice comes down, separates the seams, and the water will leak through. Several times, I have a garbage can here and another garbage can right around this area. Last year, students were walking by beside the garbage cans, and the tile up above disintegrated and fell down on the floor while students were walking by.
Staff and students coming to work here and go to school at the Bug-O-Nay-Ge-Shig High School are going to face health hazards. I've read some of the surveys over the last few years where they've suffered severe sinus issues, breathing issues, if you will.
When the ice and the snow gets too heavy, it starts breaking the seams and the water starts leaking in the roof. And every year we have to change anywhere from 30 to 50 tiles in the high school because they are all stained with the water dripping down through the ceiling. If we don't change those after they get wet, within 8 hours, mold starts developing where it's wet. And no matter how many times we replace it, we still have to do it year after year after year. So nobody can use this room. Now, if you take a look at this room, there is no access to the outside, there's no evacuation routes, there is no passive sunlight coming in because it does not have any windows in it. And that is the majority of our rooms have no windows. So when these students are in there, all of those lights in this school pretty much have to be on or there'd be no way of seeing anything. This is one of our other classrooms, extremely small, and right here there is 2 garbage cans in the spring, one there and one right here, catching the drips from the ceiling. And this is a Ojibwe history and senior social studies room, and you see how small. There is no windows. The ceiling is extremely low. And if you take a look, even though they have fire-rated doors on these, there's still spaces in the bottom because of all the heaving and thawing that still goes on in some of our classrooms. This is one of the few rooms in our entire school that has a window. This is one of the rooms that I have to come into in the morning, and we have to have between 1 and 2 space heaters to have the temperature go from about 40, 45 degrees up to about 60 degrees so the students can come in here and learn. We ended up getting a word this last year that they can no longer fix our HVAC system because it is too old and they do not make any parts for it. All right, and this is our gym. This gym is a metal Morton pole barn. We can't use this for any sports events because, number one, there is no seating over there. And if you take a look at these walls, the walls are dented from the freezing and the thawing. There is sharp, jagged edges where students or adults, if they're playing here, could get cut. And during the freezing and the thawing in winter, there's a problem. When the cold gets up here, a lot of the screws that are holding it in, they start buckling. Our pest management plan, they have to come in every once in a while. They have to check everything out. We do have mice, and we do have bats that we have to clear, and we keep up on all of our inspections and all of our testing and everything else because we have to make sure that we can keep this as safe as we can for the students and the staff. This is our life skills room. You know, if we're trying to teach the students life skills, home ec, the cooking, the baking, sewing, different things, we can only use 2 appliances at one time in this room. And sometimes we can only use one of the stoves at a time. And when this part was built or added on, part of our drainage system in the sink, part of it actually flows upwards for a little bit. So during the year, O&M has to come in and either unplug it or thaw it out so the students can actually use it. Now we're going into the science room. And this used to be an automotive mechanics room where they would do the oil changes, they would do the repairs on the automotive. There used to be a large trench going down here where all the oil and everything used to be. They filled that in with cement. We cannot have any chemistry here because we do not have a vent system. We do not have a eye wash emergency station. So quite a few years ago, all of the chemicals and everything were removed because this is not up to being in code, so the students have no access to a chemistry class. In fact, the staff here, they do quite a bit of projects, environmental, biology, general science, but we're still missing chemistry. Now, what we're ending is our computer room. The computer room should have some air conditioning in here, but it doesn't. And if you take a look, almost all of our wires are all the way out just for us to have a computer room for the students in high school. Take a look at all the bare wires. And in order for us to have the students be able to do their testing that they're supposed to do on these computers, if you take a look down there, those are power strips that are piggybacked, but this is the only way that our school can have modern technology.
And if there's an evacuation that ever has to take place, there are several hazards that they face. You know, the escape routes.
Now, let's, I'd like to show you this hall right here. Now this hall right here, if anybody had to evacuate, you take a look. It's barely big enough for two people to be able to go out the door behind you. You take a look, two people cannot get out of this door at one time. This is way too small in an evacuation situation. When we had a shooter on campus drill, they could not find the shooter. The responders, they named this the killer hallways.
I could imagine the chaos that would be happening at that moment. The children running in a crowd, the uneven floors, the doors that jam, no escape routes. I took another tour this morning, just as we have here today on video. And I got a chance to look at it firsthand. John explained it directly to me. There's no doubt in my mind that all the elements exist if this were to be some type of crime scene because of our students and staff being hurt. And to me, being a former law enforcement officer, bringing cases into court several times, the elements exist, and you'd have a shut and closed case from beginning to end. That's what I see when I came here this morning. I was surprised. I seen the dangers. I've listened to the Minnesota state representatives, U.S. senators, all shocked of what they've seen. One question posed to them was, would you send your child here? The answer was absolutely not. Leech Lake Reservation communities, if we were to obtain a new high school, would bring pride and honor to the Leech Lake band members and other tribal members, for that matter, to send their kids to school here. I mean, first impressions are lasting impressions. The people who had come here just as a tour to see if they want to send their children here, probably not, and probably sent their children to another area high school. I think that a new high school will bring pride and honor and to our community members, and something to be proud of. And they'll bring, and they, you know, as well as the children. Children want to be proud where they go and learn.